Ambassador Thane Blackwood stepped off his shuttle onto the pristine landing platform of Nexus Prime. The neutral world gleamed under its 3 suns, its crystal towers reaching toward the purple sky like frozen lightning. He had been to many worlds in his 20 years as Earth's chief diplomat, but Nexus Prime always made him feel small. Everything here was built to impress, to remind visitors that they stood in the center of galactic power. His aide, Lieutenant Sarah Park, walked beside him carrying a simple briefcase. "Sir, the council message was very specific about timing. They want you in the chambers in exactly 1 hour." Thane nodded, adjusting his plain black diplomatic uniform. Around them, aliens of every description moved through the spaceport, tall blue-skinned Xanthari warriors with their ceremonial swords, floating Vex beings that looked like living crystals. The insect-like Kithra moved in perfect formation, their movements synchronized by their shared mind. There were dozens of other species too, some he recognized, others completely foreign. "Any word from Earth about what this is about?" Sarah asked quietly. "Nothing official," Thane replied, "but Admiral Vale thinks it's about our expansion into the Kepler sector. The Council has been making noise about it for months." They walked through the grand entrance of the Council building. The walls were covered in symbols from every major civilization in the galaxy. At the center, barely visible among the hundreds of other marks, was Earth's simple blue circle. Humanity had only been part of galactic politics for 50 years, a blink of an eye compared to empires that were thousands of years old. The waiting room was empty except for a single Xanthari guard. These beings stood nearly 8 feet tall, with skin that shifted from blue to purple depending on their mood. This one's skin was a deep blue, which Thane knew meant calm confidence. The guard looked down at him with eyes like black diamonds. "Human diplomat," the guard said in perfect English. "The Council will see you now." The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, 7 massive chairs were arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different alien species. At the center stood a small platform with a simple human-sized chair. Thane had been here before, but never with all 7 council members present. That was unusual. Most galactic business was handled by 2 or 3 members at most. Council Speaker Vexthul rose from the largest chair. The being was 12 feet tall and made entirely of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through its body in patterns that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "Ambassador Blackwood of Earth," Vexthul began, "we thank you for answering our summons so quickly." Thane took his seat and looked around the circle. Admiral Corvain of the Xanthari Empire sat perfectly straight, his hand resting on his ceremonial sword. Swarm Prime of the Kithra Collective twitched slightly, thousands of individual insects moving as one creature. The Helion representative glowed softly in its environmental suit. The others he knew less well, but all of them watched him with what felt like barely controlled hostility. "Of course, Speaker," Thane replied. "Earth is always ready to discuss matters of mutual interest." "Mutual interest," repeated Admiral Corvain, his voice like grinding stone. "Yes, let us discuss your interests, human." Vexthul raised one crystal hand. "Admiral, please. We will follow proper procedure." The speaker turned back to Thane. "Ambassador, we have called you here to discuss humanity's recent activities in the outer spiral regions." Thane kept his face neutral. "I'm happy to answer any questions about our colonial efforts." "Colonial efforts," said Swarm Prime, its voice like rustling leaves. 73 new settlements in the past 5 years. 12 star systems now under human control. Your species has expanded faster than any civilization in recorded history. "We've been fortunate to find suitable worlds," Thane said carefully, "and we've followed all council regulations about expansion into unclaimed space." "Unclaimed?" Admiral Corvain stood up, his skin shifting to a darker purple. "These systems were unclaimed for good reason. The radiation zones around Kepler 442, the unstable stars of the Helix Nebula, the asteroid fields that have destroyed ships for centuries. Yet somehow humans thrive in these places." Thane smiled slightly. "Humans are adaptable. We've always made the best of difficult situations." "Too adaptable," said a new voice. The Helion representative spoke through its translator device. "Your species does not respect the natural order. You take broken things and make them work. You turn chaos into order. This disturbs the balance." "I'm sorry you feel that way," Thane said, "but I don't see how human success threatens anyone else." Vexthal's light patterns shifted to what Thane recognized as agitation. Your trade routes now carry 60% of all commercial traffic in the outer spiral. Your ships are faster and more efficient than vessels designed by civilizations with thousands of years of experience. Your colonies produce more resources in 10 years than our worlds manage in a century. Again, I see this as good news for everyone. More trade means more prosperity. For you, Admiral Corvain snapped. Your prosperity comes at our expense. Centauri trade guilds report profit losses of 30% since humans entered the market. Our shipping companies cannot compete with your impossible efficiency. Swarm Prime leaned forward. The collective calculates that human expansion will control 47% of this galactic sector within 20 years. This concentration of power threatens stability. Thane looked around the circle of alien faces. Now he understood. This wasn't about regulations or proper procedure. This was about fear. These ancient civilizations, used to being the dominant powers in the galaxy, were afraid of being overtaken by the newcomers. Honored council members, he said slowly, humanity has no desire to threaten anyone. We're simply trying to build good lives for our people. Your intentions matter less than your actions, Vexthal replied. The council has made a decision. The speaker gestured and a holographic document appeared in the air between them. Thane read quickly, his heart sinking with each line. Humanity will withdraw all colonies and settlements to your original 3-star systems, Vexthal announced. All expansion activities will cease immediately. Human trade vessels will submit to council inspection and regulation. These measures will take effect within 1 standard galactic year. Thane stood up slowly. And if we refuse? Then the council will implement corrective measures, Admiral Corvain said, his hand moving to his sword hilt. We have fleets, human. Many fleets. Over 3,000 ships, Swarm Prime added helpfully. The collective calculates your resistance would last approximately 72 hours. Thane looked at each council member in turn. Their confidence was absolute. They saw humanity as a minor annoyance that could be swatted aside whenever they chose. They had made the same mistake that others had made throughout human history. They had mistaken kindness for weakness, cooperation for submission. I see, Thane said quietly. You want humanity to abandon everything we've built. Give up our homes, our trade, our future. Become your subjects. You will remain independent within your designated space, Vexthal said. The council is generous. Thane picked up his briefcase and stood. I'll need to discuss this with my government, of course. Of course. You have 1 year. As Thane walked toward the chamber doors, Admiral Corvain called after him. Human, you would do well to accept reality. Your species has had a remarkable run, but it is over. The galaxy belongs to those strong enough to hold it. Thane paused at the doorway and turned back. For just a moment, his diplomatic mask slipped, and something cold and dangerous flickered in his eyes. Admiral, he said softly, you have no idea what humanity is capable of when we're threatened. But you're about to find out. The chamber doors closed behind him with a final ominous hiss. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the UES Defiance, watching Earth turn slowly below. The blue marble looked peaceful from here, but she knew that inside the Colonial Assembly building, the most important debate in human history was taking place. Her communication officer approached. Captain Admiral Vale wants you in Conference Room Alpha. The assembly session is about to begin. Sarah nodded and made her way through the ship's corridors. The Defiance was humanity's flagship, a massive vessel that served as both warship and diplomatic center. Its crew of 800 represented the best of human space forces, drawn from every colony and nation on Earth. Conference Room Alpha was packed. Representatives from all 12 human colonies sat around a circular table, their faces grim. At the head of the table, Admiral Marcus Vale studied a holographic display showing Council fleet movements. The old man looked tired, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Vale began, Ambassador Blackwood has delivered the Council's ultimatum. They want us gone from 9 of our 12 systems within 1 year. Governor Martinez of New Geneva slammed her hand on the table. This is outrageous. We've followed every rule, paid every fee, respected every boundary. What gives them the right? Power, said Dr. Elena Vasquez quietly. The head of the Xenocultural Studies Institute rarely spoke at these meetings, but when she did, people listened. They have more ships, older alliances, established trade routes. They think that makes them superior. The Xanthari alone have 800 warships, added Colonel Zhang from the Kepler colony. The Vex Dominion has another 600. We have what, 400 ships total? 417, Admiral Vale corrected. But numbers aren't everything. Governor Park from the Helix settlements laughed bitterly. Easy for you to say, Admiral. You're not the one who has to tell 2 million colonists they need to abandon their homes. Sarah watched the debate continue, feeling the familiar human tendency toward argument and discussion. It was one of their species' great strengths and great weaknesses. Humans could debate anything, question everything, never simply accept what they were told, but sometimes that meant they spent too much time talking when they should be acting. What are our options? Asked Representative Williams from Europa Station. We could try negotiating, suggested Governor Torres. Maybe offer to limit our expansion in exchange for keeping our current colonies. They're not interested in compromise, Ambassador Blackwood said via video link from Nexus Prime. I've never seen the Council so united. They see us as a threat that needs to be contained. Then we fight, said Colonel Zhang simply. We fought for our independence before. Against who? Governor Martinez demanded. 7 alien civilizations with technology we barely understand. Ships that can bend space and time. This isn't like the old wars on Earth, Zhang. We're completely outgunned. Dr. Vasquez cleared her throat. Actually, we're not. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to the quiet scientist who rarely spoke about anything except alien cultures and languages. Explain, Admiral Vale said. Dr. Vasquez stood and activated her own holographic display. Images of alien ships and technology filled the air above the table. For the past 50 years, we've been studying every species in the Council. Not just their technology, but their psychology, their history, their weaknesses. The Xenocultural Studies Institute has been spying, Ambassador Blackwood asked. Learning, Dr. Vasquez corrected. The Council members think they know us because they've watched our expansion. But they've never really tried to understand what makes humans different. Meanwhile, we've been doing nothing but studying them. She gestured, and the display changed to show detailed schematics of Xanthari ships. The Xanthari build powerful vessels, but they're predictable. Their honor code requires them to announce their attacks and fight fairly. They can't conceive of deception in battle. Another gesture brought up Kythera ships. The collective shares one mind across billions of individuals. That makes them incredibly coordinated. But it also means they can be disrupted by specific frequency patterns that interfere with their neural links. The Vex Dominion uses quantum manipulation technology, she continued. Very impressive, but their quantum cores are unstable when exposed to certain energy patterns. Each species has spent thousands of years perfecting their approach to warfare. That perfection has become a weakness. Admiral Vale leaned forward. Are you saying we can beat them? I'm saying we can surprise them. The Council expects us to either surrender or fight like humans have always fought. They're not prepared for us to fight like them, but better. Governor Martinez looked confused. What does that mean? Dr. Vasquez smiled for the first time Sarah could remember. It means we activate Protocol Pandora. The name meant nothing to most people in the room, but Sarah saw Admiral Vale's eyes widen. She had heard rumors about secret human projects, research programs that officially didn't exist. Elena, the Admiral said slowly, are you sure? We've been preparing for this day since we first encountered the Council, Dr. Vasquez replied. Every trade mission, every diplomatic exchange, every cultural visit has been a chance to learn. We know how they think, how they fight, how they make decisions. More importantly, we know how to beat them. She turned to address the room. The Council thinks they're dealing with a young species that got lucky. They see our colonies and our ships and think they understand our capabilities. They have no idea what humans are really capable of when we're threatened. But their numbers. Colonel Zhang began. Numbers don't matter if you're fighting the wrong war. Admiral Vale interrupted. He stood up and Sarah could see the legendary military mind working behind his tired eyes. Dr. Vasquez is right. We've been thinking about this all wrong. We don't need to beat them in a fair fight. We need to make sure the fight isn't fair. What exactly are you proposing? Governor Martinez asked. Admiral Vale looked around the room. The Council expects us to either surrender quietly or put up a brief honorable resistance before being crushed. Instead, we're going to give them exactly what they want. I don't understand, said Representative Williams. We're going to let them attack us, the Admiral explained. Let them think they're winning. Draw their fleets deep into our territory. Spread them out, make them overconfident. And then we're going to show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She had served under Admiral Vale for 5 years and had never seen this look in his eyes. It was the expression of a predator that had been cornered and was ready to show its teeth. The Council has given us 1 year, Admiral Vale continued. That's enough time to prepare. Dr. Vasquez, I want everything your institute has learned about Council weaknesses. Captain Chen, ready the fleet for modifications. We're going to retrofit every ship with improvements based on alien technology. Is that even possible? Governor Torres asked. We've been reverse engineering Council tech for decades, Dr. Vasquez replied. We just haven't implemented it because we didn't want to seem threatening. That's about to change. Admiral Vale stood at the head of the table, and for a moment Sarah could see the man who had led humanity's first steps into space. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council thinks they're about to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they're about to learn something about us. He paused, looking at each representative in turn. Humans don't give up. We don't surrender. And we definitely don't let bullies push us around. The Council wants to see what we're capable of? Let's show them. The vote was unanimous. As the representatives filed out to prepare their colonies for war, Sarah remained behind with Admiral Vale and Dr. Vasquez. Sir, she said quietly. Are we really ready for this? Admiral Vale smiled grimly. Sarah, humanity has been ready for this fight since the day we first looked up at the stars. We just didn't know it yet. Council Speaker Vexthol stood in the center of the war chamber, watching as holographic displays showed the movement of ships across the galaxy. 7 months had passed since the ultimatum was delivered to humanity, and still the stubborn species refused to withdraw from their colonies. The human deadline expires in 5 months, announced Admiral Corvain, his blue skin shifting to purple with anticipation. Their silence suggests they believe they can resist us. Swarm Prime's thousands of components moved in perfect synchronization as it spoke. The collective has analyzed human communications intercepts. They show signs of panic and division. Some colonies wish to surrender, others to fight. They are not united. Vexthol's crystalline form pulsed with satisfied light. As expected, young species always struggle with hard decisions. They lack the unity that comes with age and wisdom. The holographic display shifted to show the Council's assembled fleets. It was the largest military force ever gathered in this part of the galaxy. 800 Xanthari warships with their massive energy cannons. 600 Vex vessels that could manipulate space itself. 400 Kythera ships moving in perfect formation. The other Council members had contributed their own fleets, bringing the total to over 3,000 vessels. Admiral Corvain gestured at the display with pride. The humans have 400 ships scattered across 12 systems. Even if they concentrate their entire fleet, they cannot hope to match our power. The collective calculates a 97.3% probability of human surrender within 72 hours of initial contact, Swarm Prime added. Resistance is mathematically impossible. General Thex of the Helian Confederation leaned forward in his environmental suit. What if they attempt to flee? Human ships are faster than most of ours. Where would they go? Asked Admiral Corvain dismissively. We control all the major hyperspace routes. Any human ship that tries to escape will find Council fleets waiting for them. Vexthol studied the tactical display. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Simultaneous attacks on all human colonies. Overwhelming force applied quickly to minimize casualties. A demonstration of Council power that would convince humanity to accept their proper place in the galactic order. Admiral Corvain will lead the attack on the primary human worlds, Vexthul announced. Swarm Prime will coordinate strikes on their outer colonies. General Thex and the others will secure the hyperspace routes to prevent escape. The Xanthari Admiral stood straighter. It will be an honor to finally teach these upstart mammals their place. They have forgotten that this galaxy belongs to those strong enough to hold it. Remember, Vexthul cautioned, we wish to subdue them, not destroy them. Humans have useful traits when properly directed. Their adaptability could serve the Council well once they accept our guidance. Of course, Speaker, Admiral Corvain replied. The Xanthari understand the difference between conquest and annihilation. We will break their will to resist while preserving their ability to serve. Meanwhile, in a hidden monitoring station deep within an asteroid field, 3 humans watched the Council's preparations with intense interest. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat before a bank of screens showing intercepted alien communications. Beside her, Commander Torres of Human Intelligence and Captain Kim of the Stealth Division analyzed the enemy fleet movements. "They're really doing it," Captain Kim said quietly. 3,000 ships. I've never seen so much firepower in one place. "And they're dividing it exactly as we predicted," Dr. Vasquez replied, making notes on her tablet. "Admiral Corvain takes the direct approach. Swarm Prime handles coordination and the others secure escape routes. Textbook council strategy." Commander Torres leaned back in his chair. "Elena, are you absolutely certain about those alien weaknesses? Because if you're wrong, humanity is about to be wiped out." Dr. Vasquez turned from her screens. "I've spent 30 years studying these species. The Xanthari cannot conceive of dishonorable tactics. The Kithra rely so heavily on their shared mind that they panic when it's disrupted. The Vex believe their quantum technology makes them invincible. Every strength they have is also a weakness. And the others? The Helians are cautious to the point of paralysis. The Draxi fight by ancient rituals that make them predictable. The Morphic Collective hasn't adapted their tactics in 500 years. The Council's greatest weakness is that they never change, never adapt. They do the same things they've always done because those things worked for thousands of years." Captain Kim shook her head. "I still don't understand how 400 human ships can beat 3,000 alien vessels." Dr. Vasquez smiled. "Because we're not going to fight 3,000 ships. We're going to fight 7 separate fleets that don't really trust each other, using tactics they've never seen before, with technology they think they understand but actually don't." On her main screen, intercepted Xanthari communications showed Admiral Corvain briefing his commanders. The proud warrior spoke of human weakness and the swift victory to come. His officers nodded agreement, their honor-bound minds unable to conceive that an enemy might lie about their capabilities. "They think they know us because they've watched our expansion," Dr. Vasquez continued. "They see our merchant ships and think we're just traders. They see our colony ships and think we're just farmers. They have no idea that every human vessel has been built to military specifications from the beginning." Commander Torres highlighted a section of the tactical display. The Kithara are positioning their ships in perfect formations, thousands of vessels moving as one organism, which makes them incredibly efficient but also incredibly vulnerable. Dr. Vasquez replied, "Disrupt their neural network at the right frequency, and thousands of ships become thousands of individual vessels with no coordination. And the Vex? Overconfident in their quantum manipulation. They think reality-bending technology makes them gods. They don't realize that quantum fields can be destabilized by specific energy patterns. Admiral Vale's engineering teams have been working on that problem for years." Captain Kim pulled up another display showing human fleet positions. "Our ships are already in position throughout the galaxy. The Council thinks we're scattered and defensive, but we're actually surrounding them." "The beauty of the human approach," Dr. Vasquez said, "is that we've never thought like a single species. We think like individuals, like small groups, like chaos. The Council expects order and hierarchy. They're going to get confusion and improvisation." On the screens, final preparations were being made for the Council's great offensive. Admiral Corvain's ships were moving into position around the major human worlds. Swarm Prime's vessels approached the outer colonies. "The trap was about to spring. How long until they attack?" Commander Torres asked. Dr. Vasquez checked her chronometer. "Based on their communications, the first wave hits New Geneva in 6 hours. That's when we find out if 50 years of preparation was enough." "Any last-minute doubts?" Captain Kim asked. Dr. Vasquez looked at the massive alien fleets on her displays, then at the smaller human forces hidden throughout the galaxy. By every conventional measure, humanity was about to be crushed, but conventional measures had never applied to humans. "The Council is about to learn something important about our species," she said quietly. "We're not just adaptable. We're not just persistent. We're not just clever." She turned to her companions with a cold smile. "We're vindictive, and when someone threatens our families, our homes, our future, we don't just fight back. We make sure they never threaten anyone again." The countdown timer on her screen showed 5 hours and 57 minutes until the Battle of New Geneva would begin. In Council space, Admiral Corvain prepared his speeches about human surrender. On Earth, Admiral Vale made final preparations for humanity's real response. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you cornered the most dangerous predator in known space. The first shots of the war were fired at exactly 0800 Standard Galactic Time. Admiral Corvain's flagship, the massive Zenthari dreadnought Eternal Honor, emerged from hyperspace above New Geneva with 200 warships in perfect formation. The human colony's defense platforms immediately opened fire, their plasma cannons lighting up space with brilliant flashes. As expected, Admiral Corvain said to his bridge crew, watching the human weapons bounce harmlessly off his ship's shields. Primitive technology and desperate tactics. This will be over quickly. Similar scenes played out across human space. Swarm Prime's coordinated fleet struck the outer colonies while General Thex's forces blocked escape routes. Within the first hour, Council reports claimed the destruction of dozens of human ships and the capture of 3 colonies. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Vex Thule monitored the battle from the war room. The humans are performing exactly as predicted, he announced to the assembled representatives. Their outer defenses have collapsed and their ships are retreating in disorder. What the Council didn't know was that the retreating human ships were following a carefully planned script. Captain Sarah Chen commanded one of these fleeing vessels, the destroyer UES Vigilance, as it led a Zenthari pursuit force deeper into the Kepler system. Maintain the illusion, she told her crew. Let them think they're winning. Drop some debris, send distress signals, make it look good. Behind her, the Zenthari ships followed eagerly. Admiral Corvain had taught them that honor demanded pursuing a fleeing enemy to ensure complete victory. They had no idea they were being led into the largest trap in human history. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched from her hidden command center as the Council forces spread across the galaxy. Phase 1 complete, she announced. Council fleets are now scattered across 47 star systems. Their supply lines stretched to maximum. The real battle began 3 hours later when Captain Chen's destroyer rounded a gas giant and found itself face to face with the human reserve fleet. 200 ships that the Council had no idea existed, led by the flagship UES Defiance. Surprise, Admiral Vale said quietly as his ships opened fire. But these weren't the same human vessels the Council thought they knew. During the year-long ultimatum period, every ship in the human fleet had been retrofitted with captured and reverse-engineered alien technology. Zenthari energy shields, Vex quantum drives, Kythera coordination systems, all improved by human engineering. The pursuing Zenthari force found themselves facing ships that were faster, more maneuverable and more heavily armed than anything in their databases. Worse, the human ships fought with tactics no honorable warrior could understand. They're using our own shield frequencies against us, reported a Zenthari captain as human weapons punched through his defenses. How is that possible? The answer was Dr. Vasquez's 50-year intelligence operation. Human agents had infiltrated every major alien civilization, learning their technology, studying their weaknesses, preparing for this day. The Council had unknowingly taught humanity everything needed to defeat them. In the Helix Nebula, Swarm Prime's perfectly coordinated fleet encountered another nasty surprise. Human ships began broadcasting specific frequency patterns that Dr. Vasquez had identified as disruptive to Kythera neural networks. Suddenly, thousands of ships that had moved as one organism became thousands of individual vessels with no coordination. The collective cannot maintain connection, Swarm Prime reported in panic. Individual units are reverting to independent operation. How do the humans know our neural frequencies? The answer was the same everywhere. 50 years of patient study, careful observation, and meticulous preparation, the Council had dismissed humanity as too young to understand galactic warfare. Instead, humans had spent decades learning everything about their potential enemies. The turning point came when General Thex's forces encountered what they thought was a fleeing human cargo ship. The vessel appeared helpless, broadcasting distress signals and leaking atmosphere. When Thex's ships moved to investigate, the cargo ship revealed its true nature. It was Admiral Vale himself aboard a heavily modified destroyer disguised as a merchant vessel. The ship's cargo holds opened to reveal the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. Powered by Vex quantum cores and targeting systems that could track ships through hyperspace. General Thex, Admiral Vale's voice came over the communication channel. You're trespassing in human space. I suggest you leave. The Helian general's response was to order his entire fleet to attack the single human ship. What followed was a demonstration of what human engineering could accomplish when properly motivated. Vale's ship dodged through the enemy formation like a dancer, its weapons precisely targeting each alien vessel's specific weaknesses. Helian ships relied on layered energy barriers for protection. Vale's weapons were calibrated to destabilize those barriers layer by layer. Draxi vessels used ritual combat formations that had worked for centuries. Vale attacked from angles their formations couldn't defend. The Morphic Collective's adaptive hulls were neutralized by weapons that adapted faster than they could respond. Within 20 minutes, General Thex's entire fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The general himself sat in his damaged command ship, staring at the human vessel that had single-handedly defeated 200 alien warships. "Impossible," he whispered. "No single ship should be able to—" "You're thinking like a single ship," Admiral Vale replied over the comm. "I'm thinking like a human." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as Council forces discovered that everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. Ships they expected to destroy in minutes instead destroyed them. Tactics that had worked for millennia failed against opponents who broke every rule of civilized warfare. Admiral Corvain found himself trapped in the Kepler system, his honor-bound tactical thinking useless against humans who attacked from shadows, used deception and refused to fight fairly. His reports to the Council became increasingly desperate. "They fight without honor," he transmitted. "They use our own weapons against us. They know things about our ships that our own engineers don't know." On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Vexthul watched the holographic displays with growing alarm. The swift victory they had predicted was turning into a disaster. Human forces were appearing everywhere, equipped with technology that matched or exceeded their own. "How many ships do they actually have?" demanded the representative from the Draxi Empire. "Unknown," replied the Council's intelligence chief. "Our estimates were based on observed commercial traffic. It appears humans have been concealing their true military capacity." Swarm Prime's report was even more disturbing. "The collective cannot maintain coordination. Human interference patterns suggest detailed knowledge of our neural networks. This level of understanding would require decades of study." The truth was beginning to dawn on the Council leadership. They weren't fighting a desperate young species making a final stand. They were fighting an enemy that had been preparing for this war since their first contact with galactic civilization. Dr. Vasquez smiled as she watched the Council's confident predictions crumble. "Phase 2 complete," she announced. "Council forces are now scattered, confused, and cut off from their supply lines. Time for Phase 3. Admiral Vale's voice came over the communication network to every human ship. "All vessels, this is command. Execute Protocol Pandora." Across the galaxy, human ships that had been playing defense suddenly went on the attack. Not random strikes, but carefully coordinated operations targeting the specific weaknesses of each Council species. Zenthari honor demanded they fight to the death, so humans gave them no opportunity to fight at all. Kithara coordination required constant communication, so humans jammed their networks. Vex quantum manipulation needed stable energy fields, so humans destabilized them. The Council had expected to face a young species with limited technology and simple tactics. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that had spent 50 years learning how to kill them efficiently. The war that was supposed to last 72 hours was effectively over in 12. And humanity was winning. Council Speaker Vexthul stood in the emergency session chamber, his crystalline form flickering with patterns of confusion and fear. Around him, the surviving Council members argued in voices that grew more desperate by the hour. In just 18 hours, their magnificent 3,000-ship armada had been reduced to scattered remnants, fleeing through hyperspace. "This is impossible," Admiral Corvain raged, his blue skin now a deep purple of humiliation. No species could have hidden this level of military capability. "Our intelligence networks are perfect." "Clearly they are not," Swarm Prime replied, its collective voice shaky for the first time in recorded history. "The collective has been compromised. Human agents have been feeding us false information for decades." General Thex's damaged form appeared on the holographic communicator. His environmental suit was cracked and emergency lights flashed around him. "The humans knew everything. Our ship designs, our tactical doctrines, our weapon frequencies. They didn't just study us. They planned this war before we even knew we were enemies." Vexthul's light patterns shifted to deep red. "Where is Admiral Vale's fleet now?" "Everywhere," the Helian general replied grimly. "Human ships control every major hyperspace junction in this sector. They're not just winning battles. They're cutting off our supply lines, isolating our colonies, dismantling our entire infrastructure. The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss. Every alien head turned to see Ambassador Thane Blackwood walk calmly into the room, flanked by 6 human Marines in black armor. The humans moved with quiet confidence, their weapons ready but not raised. "How did you get in here?" Vexthol demanded. "Nexus Prime is heavily defended." Thane smiled and took his old seat at the center of the circle. "Your defenses are designed to stop armies, Speaker. They're not very effective against small teams who know exactly where to go and how to get there. You've been infiltrating our most secure facilities," Admiral Corvain accused. "For decades," Thane confirmed cheerfully. "Did you really think we spent 50 years in galactic society without learning how things work? We've had people in your governments, your militaries, your intelligence services. We know your defensive plans better than you do." Swarm Prime's insects buzzed with agitation. The collective calculates this level of infiltration would require thousands of agents working across multiple civilizations. "Actually, it required something much simpler," Dr. Elena Vasquez said as she entered the chamber. "It required you to underestimate us completely." The alien leaders stared at the quiet scientist who had somehow appeared in their most secure facility. Behind her, more humans entered. Captain Sarah Chen, Admiral Vale, Commander Torres, and dozens of others. The council chamber, designed to hold 7 of the galaxy's most powerful beings, was now filled with humans. "You see," Dr. Vasquez continued, "you made the same mistake that others have made throughout human history. You confused our friendliness for weakness, our cooperation for submission. You thought because we were young we were naive." Admiral Vale stepped forward. His uniform was simple, his bearing calm, but something in his eyes made even Admiral Corvain step back. "You want to know our secret? It's not superior technology or military genius. It's that we learn from everyone we meet. Every trade mission taught us about your economies. Every diplomatic exchange revealed your political structures. Every cultural visit showed us your weaknesses. You were spying on us from the beginning," General Thex accused. "We were learning from you," Thane corrected. "There's a difference. We didn't steal your secrets. You gave them to us willingly because you never imagined we might someday be enemies." Vexthol's light pattern cycled through confusion and anger. "What do you want? Our surrender?" "Actually," Admiral Vale said, sitting down casually, "we want to offer you a choice." The chamber fell silent. Of all the things the council expected to hear, this was not one of them. Dr. Vasquez activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Human ships controlled every major trade route. Council fleets were scattered and cut off. Several alien colonies were completely isolated. "Option 1, she began. "We can continue this war. You can try to rebuild your fleets and attack us again. Of course, next time we won't need to pretend to be surprised. Next time we'll just destroy you completely." Admiral Corvain's hand moved toward his sword, but one of the human Marines shook his head slightly. The Zenthari warrior's honor was strong, but he wasn't stupid. "Option 2, Dr. Vasquez continued. "We establish a new order. Not conquest, not slavery, but partnership. Real partnership based on mutual respect and shared benefit." "Partnership?" Swarm Prime's voice was filled with disbelief. "You have defeated us utterly. Why would you offer partnership?" Thane leaned forward. "Because we don't want to rule you. We want to work with you. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, but only if we stop thinking in terms of dominance and submission." "What would this partnership look like?" Vexthul asked cautiously. Admiral Vale gestured, and the display changed to show a new galactic map. "Free trade for everyone. Open colonization of unclaimed systems. Shared technology development. Joint exploration missions. Democratic decision-making instead of council dictates. And if we refuse," General Thex asked, "then you'll discover what humans are like when we stop being polite." Admiral Vale replied simply. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Vexthul spoke. "You orchestrated this entire conflict. The ultimatum, the war, our defeat. All of it was planned." "Not planned," Dr. Vasquez corrected. "Prepared for. We hoped it would never come to this. But when you threatened our families, our homes, our future, we were ready. The collective requires time to process this," Swarm Prime said. "Take all the time you need," Thane replied. "But while you're deciding, consider this. In the past 50 years, how many wars has humanity started?" The aliens looked at each other. The answer was 0. Humans had been involved in conflicts, but always as defenders or peacekeepers, never as aggressors. Now consider how many wars we've ended, Thane continued, how many trade disputes we've mediated, how many diplomatic solutions we've found to problems others thought required violence. Admiral Corvain's skin was slowly shifting back to blue. You could have destroyed us completely. Why didn't you? Because that's not who we are, Captain Chen spoke for the first time. We fight when we have to, but we prefer to build. We'd rather have partners than subjects. Over the following weeks, the new galactic order took shape. The old council was dissolved, replaced by a democratic federation where every species had a voice. Human technology was shared freely, leading to advances that benefited everyone. Trade prospered under the new system of open routes and fair competition. 6 months later, Ambassador Thane Blackwood stood on the observation deck of the new Federation headquarters, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the massive space station. Centauri warriors worked alongside human engineers. Kithera collectives coordinated with individual traders. Vex scientists shared their discoveries with curious humans. Dr. Vasquez joined him at the window. Any regrets about how things turned out? Thane shook his head. The council gave us an ultimatum because they were afraid of our success. Now their descendants will share in that success instead of fighting against it. The Federation is working better than anyone expected, Dr. Vasquez observed. Trade is up 300%. Scientific discoveries are happening faster than ever. Even the former council members admit the new system is superior. Humans have always been good at making things better, Thane replied. We just needed the chance to prove it. Admiral Vale's voice came over the station's communication system. All Federation representatives to the main assembly hall. We have 3 new species requesting membership. As they walked toward the assembly, Dr. Vasquez smiled. You know what the really beautiful part is? The council thought they were challenging humanity's domain. Instead, they helped us expand it to include the entire galaxy. Thane laughed. Elena, I don't think the galaxy was ever our domain. I think we were always its caretakers. We just needed to convince everyone else to let us do the job properly. Behind them, through the great windows of the station, ships from across the galaxy moved in peaceful formation through space that had once echoed with the sounds of war. The Council had sought to contain humanity's influence and had instead unleashed it across the stars. The galaxy belonged to no one and everyone, exactly as it should be. And at the center of it all, humanity did what it had always done best. It helped others build something better than what came before.